Okay, so for this video to do a full petaled wallflower, you're going to need something to roll out on that's porous, to give you a porous surface, a rolling pin, a circle cutter, this is just a cookie cutter, some slip, a potter's knife, obviously clay, and a form to put the slab over the top to make the slightly rounded shape. This is just a polystyrene former, but you could use something like a bowl, anything like that. And then I've just got a bit of cling film, but you can use kitchen towel or fabric, just something to line what you're going to use for your former so that your clay doesn't stick to it. Okay, the first thing we need to do is roll out our clay. So we're going to roll out a little bit on one side, and then we're going to flip it over and roll out on the other side, going in a different direction. And we're going to keep doing that until the clay is around 4 or 5 millimeters thick to begin with. I'm now going to cut the circle shape out that I'm going to put on the top of the former. You can use anything as a guide for cutting around. Let's see, that one's kind of the size of my palm. And then I'm going to put this to one side for a moment. And this is just going to go gently on top of the former. I am using my fingertips just to compress the clay so that it molds to the shape. Try and keep it fairly central over the form. And this is what we're going to attach our petals to. So we are going to need a base for our circle. So I'm just going to mark around the shape and then pop it back on the former to help it hold its shape. And I'm going to cut around slightly bigger. Now, this is missing a couple of sections, so I'm just going to roll this a a little bit more to make sure that it's big enough. I'm going to pop this on a board, and then I'm going to cut out what we're going to use to hang this piece on the wall. Remembering that the clay shrinks when it's fired, so make it a little bigger than you're going to need. And now that can be put to one side to dry off a little bit. Now we're going to come back to the spare bits of clay that we had left, and we're going to roll this piece a little bit thinner. So we're probably now about 2 millimeters thick with the clay, maybe 3, but I'd say 2 would be better. And if you go a bit thinner to 1, if your clay can, that's fine too. And now we're going to cut out some petal shapes, just the round cookie cutter. And you're going to need a lot of these, so you might well have to roll out some more clay. This is not going to be enough, so I will roll some more out and cut some more so that I have plenty. Try and fit as many of the circles in with as few gaps as possible, and then you can always wedge up all the pieces that are left over to then roll that out again and do some more, so you don't waste clay. Okay, needs a little bit more wedging, but for the petals, you're going to pop them in the palm of your hand. Take this part of your thumb and gently rub over the surface. Turn them a little bit. And what you want to do is rub slightly harder to the outside edge, so we're thinning down the edge of the circle. What this should do is give you a very natural kind of movement that is very petal-like. to do that for enough petals to cover our shape. You can always cut a few and then put them on and see how many more you need. You don't have to do them all to begin with. So we're going to start adding petals onto here, and this is where our slip comes in. Okay, so we're going to lightly score all over this surface, because this is where all our petals are going to go. And then I'm going to start by popping some slip towards the bottom of one edge. Take one of the petals, press it into place, and remember, if it hangs over the bottom, it's going to lift. It's going to have to lift up a bit, so that because the wall is going to be here. And we're just going to keep adding petals one at a time. All the way around. And then we add the next ring of petals. If you put these ones so that they line up with the joints of the previous row, rather than lining up in with each of the petals, it makes it look a little bit more natural. And it's worth forming your petals a little bit as you go too. Okay, we're now going to make the piece to go in the middle of this flower, which is going to be a little bit like a rose. So I'm going to take a little bit of clay, not too much, roll it into a ball, and then make it into a little cone, tap the bottom, and then we're going to attach some petals. So a bit of slip, petal, wrap it around. You want this middle one to go quite tight, like that. And then we're going to put 3 around the next layer. 1, 2, 3. Like that. That might be enough. You need to try it on the inside of yours. I think I'm going to add a few more petals for this. That will be fine for mine. Now, this is probably a little bit tall now because I've built it up a little bit. So I'm going to trim a bit off the bottom here. A little bit more. There we go. Now we're going to score. Slip. I've got some good lot of slip in here. And now you have to be careful that you don't trap any air as we push this in to position. If you can get to the cone in the middle, you can push down a little bit, and we'll then have to work our petals so that everything fits together nicely. There we go. So that's our flower. So we now have to get that onto our base. we're gonna score all around. I'm scoring quite wide because I made this quite a bit bigger, I hope, than I actually need. Because I'd rather have a bit of extra clay than not quite enough. I forgot to mention, if you want to put initials or anything on this, we really should do it onto the back there. So let me just lift this up. You can either carve in or press your stamp into the back of that at this point. Well, a bit earlier, before we put the slip on is a good time. So there we go. I'm being quite generous with the slip because I'm not going to be able to get slip onto the base of the flower. So I've lifted the flower off of my former. I'm going to take away the cling film, and then I'm going to very carefully pop the shape onto the base. You'll probably need to lift the petals, the base petals up, so you can see what you're doing as you do this. And you need to make sure it's all joined underneath. If you let the shape dry for a little bit, that stage will be a lot easier. So this is still a bit on the wet side, so it's collapsing a little under the weight of the petals. Blend it, and then you trim all the excess away. Okay, so you can then just go in and realign some of the petals so that everything looks the way you want it to look. I hope you like that. It's a little bit more to it than the previous simple wallflower that I did. But it's the same basic principles, it's just more petals put onto a raised form instead of onto a flat base. You can do it on a flat base if you would prefer, and just build the petals up. It works that way as well. It's great fun to just play with the petals and see what shapes and what forms you can make. And as you can see, they make very lovely natural patterns all on their own. I hope you have fun, and I hope you like the video, and I will see you next time. Bye.